Please try and keep an open mind. When you keep an open mind, it leaves doors open for terrible things.
It's Anthony Allen Ramos from GLAAD. So nice to see you. King Princess, we obviously have loved your music for so long, and I love that your debut on screen is with 9 Perfect Strangers. And not only that, what does it feel like for you to be bringing a queer storyline to 9 Perfect Strangers?
Well, we've been saying that Maisie and I have been laughing because it's like, when I got the script and we started talking, obviously immediately. When I booked this, we were on the phone. We were like, how are we gonna make this fierce?
Right.
You know, because it's not. Really, we're walking into a 6-year-long lesbian deathbed relationship. You know what I mean? Like we enter in like prime toxic lesbian. And so we wanted to craft something that felt really nuanced and interesting and real to the community. Like when I got to show a couple episodes to some of my, dyke friends, and they were like, "Ooh, I feel that," And I think that that's what's so great about stuff like this is when you have queer people playing queer people, you get to go into these really specific nuances of like overbearing and codependence and what happens after 6 years together and she's a momager kind of figure, and it's really interesting and dark.
And I think that like one of the things that I love is that we see so many with queer storylines, the coming out story or the happy
we're out.
You're out and having some issues. There's resentment happening. What was it like for you to kind of like get into that and show a relationship that at one point was amazing, but clearly they're kind of falling apart at this point?
Well, that's even. I mean, I think it's even cooler when it's the gay is just it's the cherry on top. It's not the gay just brings levels to the dynamic at play, which is that these people aren't worried about being gay. They're worried about whether or not they actually like each other and want to be with each other. They've come to a breaking point. And like I said, it's really, really fun to explore how toxic, it gets when you don't speak. When everything is like just getting swept under the rug, and when you end up in these pits of resentment towards each other. Neither of these people really know how to communicate with each other.
The show, as fantasy as it is surrounded by mental health, therapy, alternative ways of kind of getting help for yourself. I think as a queer person in 2025, how it's tough. How do you yourself kind of just keep your head on straight and keep it all together and try not to go crazy in these crazy times?
Well, I have a fantastic team of psychiatrists. I mean, I've been in therapy. My parents split really young, so I've been in therapy. Really lucky to have been in therapy since I was 3. Crazy. But I think, for me, it's like I've, like everyone, have had my own mental health stuff. Like I'm on SSRIs. Like I have done medicinal mushrooms. I've microdosed for periods of time in a regimented way. Like I'm up on it. It's like anything. It's like exercise. It's like eating right. My brain is flawed. Most people's are. So I'm just a huge advocate of like, do what works for you. If therapy works, do it. If SSRIs work, do it. Like, if mushrooms work, do it. We're all trying to be better.
Yeah.
It's stressful to be a human person right now. It's a lot. And we're predisposed to so much more mental illness now that the world is just evil.
I am so excited that 9 Perfect Strangers, we have a queer love story, but there's a lot to say here. Wolfie and Tina, I mean, for you personally, before we get into the specifics, what does it mean for you to be a part of this amazing cast, but also to be a part of a queer story in this amazing,
It's the dream.
Yeah.
It's finally to get to tell my stories, and I think also I love that it's a story, they are queer. It's not about them being queer.
Right.
It's a toxic love story, and that can be relatable to anyone. I think that's the nuance, right? As queer people, that's one facet of our identity. So let's show our whole rainbow.
And, getting to do this alongside King Princess, who making their debut, obviously rock star, musician extraordinaire. But what was it like to kind of get to share this experience with King Princess?
I mean, it was cool. I think she's very instinctual. Everything is very much in the moment and live, and I had to just forget all of the sort of tricks and, all of the things you've learned from studying and everything and just be there with her. And that was a great reminder of just being present. And also just, we were creating these characters together. We were deciding where they're going to go. We had a lot of say. So I hope you guys like the decisions we made by the end.
I've seen a little bit. I love it so far. So you are Wolfie.
Yeah.
King Princess is Tina. And how would you describe this relationship? Because without spoiling too much, basically it seems as if maybe you wanted to do this wellness experience a little more than Tina, your character. But kind of explain how we're going to see this roll out.
Yeah, I mean, you meet them. They've been together for 6 years. They're at breaking point. Things are not good. Tina can no longer play the piano, which is both of their whole profession, and Wolfie's whole access to music, which is her passion, is through Tina. So she's kind of feels like, her blood supply has been cut off and she's in survival mode and she's desperate to try and fix Tina, which is not a good way to go into a wellness retreat. It's not, a good start point. But you see them go on this journey of unveiling and they have to confront each other for the first time, really, in 6 years. And are the people they see people that still like each other, still love each other? Is there still hope? And you get to flash back and see them before, which is, a little bit heartbreaking. And then you think, how did they end up here? But they are, and what now?
And it's interesting, like you said, Tina and Wolfie, they're, they didn't just come out. This isn't about their experience. They've been together for a little bit. They're having a little bit of a rough patch. I think those are real things that queer people go through. Where did you kind of pull your, inspiration and kind of, just research into what this kind of storyline could be?
Yeah, I think to a different extent, a lot of people have experienced nuances of this. It's feeling not good enough. It's feeling like your partner's overbearing. It's feeling like you're being controlled, manipulated. It's feeling like a lot of resentment, and all these different things have been exemplified and then aggravated by the fact that it's such high stakes. And I think, looking at friends, sadly, my own tiny nuggets from my past and things like that, and finding out the why. So this is what happened, but why? What was at the core of this? Oh, it's just wanting to be loved. It's wanting to be tended to. It's all these different things which are very vulnerable, real traits. And it's just sad that they never got the help that they could, and now maybe this is their chance.
Yeah, and so much of this is based, obviously, in a fictional environment, but it centers around mental health, it centers around therapy, getting help in alternative ways. As a queer person in 2025, let me tell you, it can be tough. How do you kind of keep your head on straight and keep it all together as well as you can right now?
My community, my partner, my fiance, freshly,
yes,
is very,
congrats.
thank you. Yeah, she's a huge grounding force for me. And she really she keeps it real. She inspires me every day. And I think having people around you that are those light beings that can therefore fill the darkness when it comes in, and also just help you, see the light and keep you afloat when you feel like you're drowning. That's been my real godsend, I'd say.
Thinking about this, you've done so many amazing projects that we love. But I mean, when you get a project like this, amazing ensemble, we're talking Nicole Kidman, Henry Golding, Christine Baranski, Annie Murphy, Murray Bartlett, the list goes on. How do you even, are you all like instantly best friends? Because it's kind of a crazy environment to be.
I mean, we're in the Alps. On top of that, we're in the Alps in the middle of nowhere. So, it's fast friendships form, and then different depths came. I became so tight with Dolly. Like, she was my rock through this whole process.
I forgot about Dolly.
Dolly
goodness,
DeLeon,
yes.
legend. And you find so many different nuances. These people would never be in the same room together, the characters or us otherwise. So you find a way to come together, and each kind of nuance of each person triggers and brings out a different side of you. So it's a wonderful magic collage of mayhem, both on screen and off.
I always like to wrap up. Last question. What advice would you have, or words of wisdom for any young queer person out there, like I said, that might be having a moment, struggling, feeling like they've been left behind? What would you say to them?
I would say hold on to your individuality, your uniqueness. That is what makes you special, and don't let anyone taint your light. You're good enough as you are, so stay true to yourself.
I mean, obviously these shows are so entertaining. They're cliffhangers, drama, but I still think there's so much impact in seeing, like you said, a queer storyline of people that have just been together that might be having a rough time. What do you want anyone that tunes in, maybe because they see, a fabulous Nicole Kidman wig, but then they get to meet, Tina and Wolfie. What do you want them to take away from them?
I think communication is key. They've forgotten how to talk to each other. There's no honesty, there's no trust, there's no respect anymore. And I think that is what's breaking down their relationship. And if they could only reach that point of getting over themselves and getting over the resentment, there could be hope. So I would say, don't let yourself stand in your own way. And also remember, people can only meet you as much as they've met themselves. So don't go in there trying to change other people. Just try and work on yourself. And if they're ready to meet you, they will. And if not, so be it. They're not for you.